Everyone, this is Richard Solomon, 88.1 FM, WCWP, WCWP.org. We are in for a super treat because this is like, do you remember the Steely Dan song, My Old School? Well, we're kind of going back to one of my old schools. We are going to be with the star of a Broadway play that's actually, well, it's okay, it's off. All right. Oh, technical. Oh, the staff here is killing me. Off-Broadway. Actually, it's so off-Broadway, it's actually in Queens.
That's true.
So but there is a Broadway in Queens. And and there's some very good food there if you go like Broadway and like around Steinway. especially if you like Greek food. So anyway, I am here with someone that I have known for a really long time and in a very good way. And this is Kathryn Neville Browne. And we used to actually go to law school together. Now, she was the smart one because she pursued a career in acting, whereas the stage I'm on is just basically like, traffic court. Anyway, so welcome to the show. And let's start out. The show you're in right now is called Some Girls. It's by Neil LaBute.
LaBute. Neil LaBute.
Okay.
Yes.
And so tell us about this show. And
great. Well, thanks first of all, Richard. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. Yes, this is a show called Some Girls, and there's it's about a guy who is getting married, and he decides to look up a lot of old girlfriends with some interesting results.
So it could be like a reunion special.
Well, it's special, that's for sure.
There was a TV show where somebody had to go out there and like apologize to every ex-girl. Oh my God. I remember there was a movie. I think it was Jack Nicholson was in some movie, and I forgot what it was. Was it Something's Gotta Give?
Oh, probably.
And I think he had to like go out to the world and apologize to every person he ever dated.
Well, our boy has sort of narrowed it down to this top few, but you don't really know what his motives are. He has some different. You have a choice of motives.
So I have. What is your role in all of this?
Oh, I'm the professor that he had a little something going on with the year he was teaching a grad lit course.
Okay.
In Boston.
Now, who is there? Somebody who actually plays the wife to be, or that never kind of gets on the radar? She's mentioned,
but we don't actually see her.
Oh, that's fascinating.
He's making the rounds. He goes to Seattle, and he goes back to see the high school sweetheart in Seattle, and then there's he goes to Chicago to see someone else, and then up to Boston to see me, and then a couple of other cities.
I know this is theater, but I'd love to see the blooper reel.
Right, I know, right. Unfortunately, with theater, we don't really have the blooper reels. That's with web series and stuff like that.
Well,
Those are fun.
We have the blooper here
we'll come back
Taking
when we
Care
have
of
that.
Business, because Chris Maffei, who's our engineer, they'll do 25 takes before we get a promo right. And
wow.
I'll just crack my way through all of them, and I'll say, by the way, I guess that's one for the highlight reel.
I would love to see that.
Or for the end of the year.
I would love to see that.
So it must be incredible to be an actress in New York City. I mean, this is the place to do it. So
definitely.
I mean, so here we are. We get our little purple hat or whatever it was, and we throw our hats up into the air, and they give us our law degrees. And how did you end up doing something so cool like this?
Well, my path was a little circuitous. I did practice law. I actually do some of it now, but I worked as a prosecutor in the Bronx DA's office for a while, and then I got married and had children. So I was home for a while, and eventually I just got the acting bug back again. Although I did act in law school. You may not remember this.
Were you in Gilbert and Sullivan?
Heck yeah.
Oh, wow.
We used to say, I was in the Georgetown Gilbert and Sullivan Society, and we used to say that we were the only Gilbert and Sullivan Society that had its own law school. So that was lots of fun.
Wow.
Because we did trial by jury, and they actually had professors and students. So who was the guy? One guy had a big handlebar mustache, Pete somebody. He was terrific.
Oh, I don't remember. So that's testing the memory. Yeah.
Yes, but unfortunately, I was probably spending a little too much time on stage instead of in the library.
but you got to be so. Okay, so you started out
Right.
with the Georgetown Gilbert and Sullivan Society.
Well, no, I started way before then. I think
Well, I mean, at least where I pick up the
yes,
story.
where you enter stage right, Richard Solomon.
Right. So on the script, I hear
right.
that there's the Gilbert. So wait, were you like the tree in kindergarten or something like that?
Actually, on my website it says Kathryn's first role was as Mary in the kindergarten Christmas pageant, carrying a very heavy plaster baby Jesus. So I think that was my very first role.
I think I was like the squirrel in the forest or something, in nursery school.
Yeah.
And I haven't really progressed that much further.
Oh well, you'll be backstage when your kids are acting.
There
doing
you
stuff
go.
like that.
So how did you? So you with the Bronx DA, and then how did you veer? How did you make that like right turn off of I-95 into like the land of live theater?
Well, actually, it was an interesting story. I was home. I had two boys, 20 months apart, Sean and Patrick, terrific young men.
Big shout out.
That's right.
Your mom rocks.
Hi, guys. So anyway, I was home with them, and I think I had a stint as the musical mom at nursery school in exchange for tuition. Probably my hardest gig ever, trying to entertain 2, 3, and 4-year-olds while singing and playing the guitar. That was a tough one.
Wow.
But then eventually how I got back into acting, because I used to do it in high school and college and law school. And I think even the DC Bar, we had something, they had the Young Lawyers Division of the DC Bar. You didn't know about this one. I think you went back to New York. And we had a show called Courting Disaster.
Oh, wow. No,
right, Courting Disaster. Lawyers.
No, I probably was just the disaster.
No. You were...
Or at least I caused some of the disaster.
I think you were trying to clean up the disasters back in the day. But
by the way, this is an embarrassing piece of trivia, but I actually tried to run for Student Bar Association president back then.
I thought you won.
I should have, but
you should have, but you still stood up.
It was
for us.
hanging chads or something.
Oh no! I always tell the story about Nope for you.
You can tell that it's never been heard on this radio.
Oh, this is one of my. I just told someone about this today. Well, my understanding was that Rich went to the dean because I think St. Elizabeth's, the mental institution, was letting people out. So we had all kinds of people wandering the streets.
Well, what happened was there was one particular student who, it doesn't matter, but she was something like the 5th or 6th person in 1 week to be attacked.
Oh, it was horrible.
And the only reason why they didn't hit her, more aggressively is they were trying to like cut her pocketbook with a knife.
Oh my God.
And they just missed stabbing her because it was more of an economic crime than a violent crime. But she missed. And I actually went up to the school and I said, look, you've got to do something about this. Mm-hmm. This is not like there should be raisins for breakfast in the cafeteria. Exactly. I said, people are like really in serious danger and you really need to do some things. Mm-hmm. And I actually suggested to the dean at the time that there were free things that they could do, like maybe just organize everybody every half hour to walk from the school to Union Station where the metro was. And they were like, they said to me, I'll never forget the quote, "We do no more and we do no less than other schools in other situations like the University of Chicago and Columbia." And I go, but I didn't go to those schools. I go here and my friends are in danger.
Right.
So
my understanding, and Richard told me this probably at a reunion, I guess, was that you were so enraged and so irate that you said to the dean, Dean so-and-so, whoever it was.
Dean Martin.
Someday I'm going to be a successful lawyer and you're going to want me to donate money to this school and you're going to send me that piece of paper. You know what I'm going to write on that? I'm going to write NOPE, N-O-P-E. And you know what that's going to stand for? Not one penny ever. I think you've stuck to that.
Oh, I have. In fact, they tried to reach out to me. The funniest thing is they actually were like, would you like to meet Ruth Bader Ginsburg? I'm like, no. And like, it's free for you. Well, and I'm like, no, nope means nope.
Nope means nope. And even decades later, we're still loving that story and still holding out on Georgetown.
We're still holding tight because, what is it? An elephant is an elephant. Never forgets. 100% was it the Dr. Seuss thing?
Something like that.
Or the Lorax, whatever.
Right.
So... So anyway, you're listening to Richard Solomon rattle on about his past on taking care of business. tcbradio.com is our website, and you can email us at tcbradiowcwp@yahoo.com. We have a very interesting show coming up very soon. We're going to be broadcasting live from Gurney's Inn in Montauk. So that's a future show. And you can catch our past archive of shows on our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and you type in the search box, tcbradio, WCWP is all one word, all squished together, no caps. You'll see the channel right now. We have a whole bunch of videos, and they're not really videos; they're audios, but it's wildly successful, and we have some great stuff up there. And we will be posting a lot of our past shows up there, and this one will be archived too. So we're not. This is like real kibitzing. We can't get to we can't get to the real point of the story.
The circuitous route. We're on the circuitous route. Yes.
How did you get to Broadway, off Broadway, and all that other?
Well, it was interesting. I had done acting through the years, but then had my children, stayed home.
20 months apart.
20 months
apart. By the
apart.
way, that's what I'm going to have. Yeah.
I know. But you have two
girls,
and I have two boys, right? Or two young men now. Well, anyway, so I hadn't acted in a while, and then what happened was 9/11, and we lost a very dear friend, Bill McGinn, who was he ran the Cub Scouts, and he was a fireman, and he walked into that tower to save people, and he never came out. And at the time, I could not. Well, we were all, you know how everyone was just devastated, and I couldn't get the song "Wedding Bell Blues" by the Fifth Dimension.
Oh, I got the wedding bell blues.
Right? Could not get the song out of my head, so I rewrote the lyrics for our friend Bill. And his best friend, Michael Newman, found out about this and said, "That's it, you have to sing this at the Parent Talent Show at PS 81 in Riverdale." And I said, "Oh, no. You can get my friend Lori Walton, who's a professional singer, to..." He said, "No, you're Bill's friend, so you have to sing it." So I took some lessons and got up there and sang it. And it really turned into a tribute to him. He was an amazing person, just an amazing man. So I sang at that event, and everybody loved it. And it was just a wonderful way to... that's how I came back to acting. So after that, I started doing some community theater and started studying, and eventually took it on the road to New York City.
So what was the big break? Where was the, the first time you're out there and you're like, wow, I'm really doing this?
Yeah. I guess I'm really still waiting for the big break, the big commercial break, but that's okay too. I just love theater. I mean, being back on stage is really, really wonderful.
What is different about New York theater as opposed to other theaters?
I will tell you, New York theater is actually a very warm community of artists. I honestly can say that because I've been to different venues, and I find that some venues are very closed and a little cliquey. It's almost like you've got one group who sort of runs things, whereas there's something about the New York theater community and film, and not just theaters, all the artists in New York, very warm, very welcoming, very open, and a very small community. You continually run into the same people. People support each other. They will refer you to someone if there's a role or something like that. So it's really astonishing, to find that, especially in a place like New York City.
So what are some of the past shows that you've done?
Oh, past shows. Well, I did A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and I was Mrs. Cratchit. And I had all these wonderful children backstage. And, of course, you can't just have one child. So I had 2 Peters, 2 Marthas, 3 Tiny Tims, a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead, all little girls, just adorable. So that was a favorite show. I did a really interesting show called The Women of the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata is the Indian legend. So on that particular show, we were all in saris, beautiful, handmade for each of us. I was in blue. One of the other actresses was in red, another was in white. But the interesting thing about that show was I was blindfolded acting for 2 hours. Not blindfolded. And
what was the purpose of the blindfolding, other than people betting to see if you missed the mark?
I actually gave my colleagues a serious heart attack one night because I was in the middle of a monologue and I was getting really into it, And apparently I was very close to the edge of the stage, and everybody was like, "Oh my God!" And they all knew. I didn't know I was that close to the edge. But the purpose of it, though, to answer your question,
sounds like there's a metaphor of life in here somewhere.
I know. That's right. Get too close to the edge. Apparently, the queen, Gandhari, was married. She married her husband was blind. So she decided that why should she enjoy the pleasures of sight when her husband was deprived of them? So she voluntarily blindfolded herself for the rest of her life.
No peeking?
No peeking.
Wow.
But I will tell you, it was a really interesting experience as an actor because Well, you use your eyes. I mean, the eyes are a big part of the expressiveness. And so I really had to rely on vocal and body. And so it was a really interesting challenge. And I remember saying to my director, Jonathan Warman, he was just terrific. I said, well, what if somebody's there? And he said, Kathryn, he said, you're a queen. You walk. They'll get out of your way. I said, okay, I'm down with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are listening to 88.1 FM, WCWP, tcbradio.com. If you are just joining in, this is a fun reacquaintance reunion with Kathryn Neville Browne, who we went to law school together with. So we are fellow classmates from Georgetown Law. And Kathryn, she became big time. So, so I actually kind of just groveled for an interview.
Oh, no.
And she is in a
I'm
play.
the lucky one.
She's in a play right now called Some Girls. Now, what's interesting is the S is in a parenthetical.
Yes.
So is it some girl or some girls, or it's both?
Well, it is both, because the way the play, the way this production is set up is the guy travels to 5 different hotel rooms where he has reunions with each of these old girlfriends, and at some point he always, I guess it sort of reflects his attitude. Well, some girl, and there are several some girls in this play, so there's a little bit of attitude in that title. Now
I see that I happen to have the postcard here, which is always kind of a cool little memento for the radio station archives.
Sure.
Variationstheatergroup.com.
Yes.
So that's the group, that's the I guess the entity that's supporting this?
Sure. Variations is just a terrific theater group. They've been out in Long Island City for a few years now, and their new home is the Chain Theater, which is just a terrific space in Long Island City. I actually had done a reading there last fall, a new play by Timothy Nolan called What's in a Name, and at the time they had just gutted most of the theater, so I have watched the birth of this incredible space. It's really beautiful.
So, for anybody who's, why don't you explain where the theater is and
Sure.
this particular run? And
Sure, absolutely. Well, Some Girls we just opened this weekend, and it was just terrific, wonderful, appreciative houses. The show is going up from May 3rd through the 18th.
Of 2013. In case you're listening is in YouTube in 2020, then you missed the boat.
Missed the boat. Yeah. But basically, we have shows Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night at 8. There are also, next weekend, we have 2 matinees, Saturday at 2 and Sunday at 2. And then the following weekend, there's a matinee on Saturday, but not on Sunday. So, the Chain Theater, 21-28, 45th Road in Long Island City. Now, the road part is important because there's 45th Street, 45th Avenue, and 45th Road, for those of you who know. But come on down and check out the show.
This is by that really big Citibank building.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And it's actually such an interesting area, Long Island City. And this is it's 3 or 4 stops from Grand Central on the number 7 train. It's about a third of the way down the block, so it's very easy to reach.
And it's by the famous Long Island City Courthouse, which is part of the Queens Supreme Court system, which that
you're familiar with.
I've been there several times.
I'm sure.
In its heyday, there was a criminal court, and I think they had some of the more scandalous trials of the 1800s were in that building. And there's some exhibits in the building. There's some very interesting history. I had a trial not that long ago, and I had to conference with the referee, and very nice referee. And what was interesting is the referee's office was in a corridor, and they said this was all the DA's office. This was the DA's office wing in those days.
Oh, wow.
And there was like a big door. It was a big vaulted door with it was like a safe with a combination lock. And I said, wow, does this work? And she said they had to break it open. And there was only like a bicycle and some papers, but it was kind of cool.
God,
and I said,
funny.
they didn't get the guy with the stethoscope? And, or
no, that's only on TV, Richard.
Or get the Rikers, get somebody out of Rikers.
That's right.
Knows how to crack safes.
Like white collar or
exactly.
something. Right.
Or call somebody from the feds. So talk about some of the other plays that you've been in and what they kind of meant to you, or or how'd you grow from them?
Well,
or the insights.
The interesting thing about these plays is that they usually what I found is that different roles come to me at different times, and it's funny, I can't really think of specific things, but just different. Like, I don't know. Last year I did Our Town, which was just delightful, just a beautiful, beautiful play, and then I had done an Ibsen play called The Wild Duck, and that was I dyed my hair dark brown for that. And you've always known me as sort of a blonde.
Yes.
So that was because it was interesting, the identity of the daughter was a big issue in that Ibsen play, and we looked nothing alike. So I figured, okay, I'll go brunette for a few months. But, they do reflect different places where you are in your life. I mean, my character in this play is wounded and angry, but she really steps into her power, and she just takes charge of her life and takes control and does what she needs to do to get closure on a bad situation.
Does this guy need to pack some heat?
You'll have to come and find out. Well, you're invited.
I'll be there.
You'll be there, definitely.
I'll be there. In fact,
you got to give your wife a night out, right?
Exactly.
That's right. Find a nice place for dinner down by the waterfront.
There's some really good Long
That's
Island City
beautiful.
has really changed. What we do, my wife and I, that's kind of fun, is whenever they have the New York City Marathon, one of the great places to actually watch the marathon is from Long Island City.
Wow.
Because they come off the Pulaski Bridge, then they wind through Long Island City, and then they hit the 59th Street Bridge, also known as the Queensboro, and now the Ed Koch Bridge.
Did they change that name?
They changed the name, yeah. They changed it right. By the way, Ed Koch is in our archives. He was actually a great interview. Speaking of 9/11, I had a few moments ago, because I was at 9/11, I was at the base of the World Trade Center because I was going to civil court that day. And when we talked about reflecting back on 9/11, we talked about that in that show, and it was very poignant. And I guess there's probably nobody in New York who doesn't have a 9/11 story.
Of course.
And there's probably nobody in New York who doesn't have a 9/11 impact. Because when so many people are, and they say, were lost, they were murdered, okay? They were just murdered. Let's call it what it is. They were murdered. Well, those 3,000 people were active, vibrant, working, doing something kind of people. And all of them had family and friends. And this was just both traumatic and unexpected, which made it just...
And unacceptable.
Oh, and totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
So it was just... Yeah, and I actually watched the entire process when I came out of the subway at 8:35 or so.
That's right. You were downtown, you told me.
Yeah, I got off at West Broadway in Chambers on the 2-3 line, and the first plane just hit. And what was interesting is about 20% off of the South Tower, there was like a hole in the glass, and on the right side was like a little bit of a flame, and you saw paper just floating all over in the sky. And you couldn't really see this on television. There was a little bit of a flame, and what started was like this reddish brown smoke.
Oh my God!
And then as it heated up, it became more like grayish white. And then the events unfolded, and what was almost kind of mind-boggling was when the plane first hit, there was just nothing but absolute silence. Really? When you were out there, you were just looking at other people, and they were just looking at you, because everybody was kind of stunned. It was perfect weather, a cloud in the sky, no wind. I mean, it was just just perfect day. And I had my 2 trial bags with me, and for about a minute or two, there was just this roaring silence. And then all of a sudden, about 2 minutes in, then all of a sudden you saw every emergency vehicle, unmarked car, scrambling. And then that's what, it really was, hell broke loose.
Sure.
And then I knew something was a problem. And when I walked down to 111 Center Street, what I noticed was that by the jail, by the federal court, there was a small cadre of police officers in full riot gear. Wow. And that's when I knew they had the plastic, like umpire kind of masks and things like that, and they were just in full battle mode. And I'm like, wow, there's something really wrong. If they're in full riot gear and there's no riot on the ground, there's a big problem, because there was, it was just a typical New York day. Everyone was just, I think school was starting up, and just everything was just back to back from the summer. So anyway, so I guess 9/11. Brought you back to the theater.
Yeah, it was an incredible gift. I mean, in giving back to our friend Bill, I did a tremendous gift, because I always loved theater. I really did, and I just never really got to pursue it. I mean, I did a lot of it, but I never really got to pursue it.
What role stretched you in ways that you didn't think you'd ever be stretched?
Oh, I would say, and actually this, unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to play the role in the full play yet. I did a 9-minute monologue for a student workshop as Martha from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Oh, wow.
And that was really an extraordinary piece of work. It was early in my career, too, so I was learning the craft of how to reach inside and really get in touch with your stuff, your emotions, all those things that you want to let your character borrow. And there is, you learn how to do that to let your character access that, but then you have to learn how to let it go. And I think it was a little hard for me to let some of that stuff go because Martha lives in a very dark place, and I had to explore some dark places to let her really live and breathe.
Of all the different kinds of plays that you've been in, how is it that you keep it fresh? When you do a movie, and you're done. Mm-hmm. But Phantom of the Opera has been on for what, since like 80 something?
Oh my God!
How do those people who've done the same performance after performance? I know it's a new audience each night. How do they keep that energy and they keep the show fresh, as opposed to sort of how I feel, which is, all right, day 97 of the trial. Oh my God,
Right, I know.
Because I did a trial for 1 year.
Wow.
I did what was called the New York Asbestos Powerhouse Case trial, and in Brooklyn Federal Court, and it literally lasted a year, except for 2 weeks in July and 2 weeks in September, and literally your mind was numb
I'll bet,
from the trial because it was.
Yes. Law will do that to you.
Oh yeah,
yes,
thousands
it will numb all those brain cells. Pay all that money to develop those brain cells, and then the law will numb them.
So how does an actor such as yourself keep it fresh and electric? For me, the one-time visitor in a 20-year span. Because everybody who goes to say like a Phantom of the Opera goes, wow, it was great, it was this, it was that, the effects. But I could see, like, if I was on the acting side of it, I'd be like, oh, God,
Well, I don't know too many people who stay for 20 years, although I know there was one show. There's some show on Broadway that someone has done for about 20 years, or an off-Broadway show.
But even if it's for a couple of years or 3 years.
It's a great question. It really is. And I guess the thing is, well, first of all, you really have to practice your craft. You have to really prepare and not cut corners. But I think the interesting thing, too, is because it's theater, you just never know what's going to happen. I mean,
but don't you? There's a script.
Well, you do.
There's a starting time.
You do, but there are always things that go wrong. I mean, wardrobe malfunctions and phones that don't ring and sound cues that do or don't happen. And the other thing too is your audience. I mean, that's almost like your missing scene partner. The audience fuels us as actors. I mean, there's definitely an energy there with them, and we're aware, even though you're not aware of them, because it's not that you're not. You're aware of them even though you're not focused on them. So, but you're definitely aware of the energy. I mean, I know there's a particular line in my play which is a bit of a doozy, and I got a gasp today. Somebody gasped at my line because it's a pretty interesting line. And then there's another line, and sometimes you get a great laugh. But I think as human beings, we change every day. So why wouldn't a character change?
I'm getting thicker every day.
No, but and the thing is, as an actor, you bring yourself, but you bring different stuff. Maybe one day you're more angry, another day you're more wistful, another day you're just at the end of your rope. So these are all qualities that your character can borrow, and it sort of informs what your character might do.
Have your boys ever seen you rehearse? Have they ever seen you rehearse in the house?
They have. Oh, they have, definitely. I have definitely held them hostage in cars running lines with me. This play, though, I will say, no. The boys are not running lines not this one with me. But especially my older son, he's done a lot of terrific work backstage for us. He was the muscle for one show. People try to come in late, and he's like, no, you have to wait. But they've been really supportive. They really have been. They're terrific kids.
What was the most interesting feedback that they've ever given to you about some of the lines or acting that you shared with them?
Well, my oldest son asked me once why in every play or movie he has ever seen me in, there's always some guy he wants to beat up. He's a little protective of his mom.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of nice. Listen, I'm happy I'm still getting cast in those roles,
So you also have a film. You also have a film background as well.
I do. I've done several films. I have a web series, which is loads of fun. And there's actually a new film, which is also going to be a PSA, a public service announcement, called Happy Hour, and I'll have to come back and talk to you about that one another time. Once that hits the festival circuit,
let me tell you,
it's a great project.
In radio, we have these things called Friends of the Show. So you just got to keep coming back,
Well, that one is an interesting one because I am in a 70s flashback scene, and I am wearing white vinyl go-go boots, and they don't breathe. It's a very interesting thing to wear white go-go boots for 12 hours or more.
Wow.
So I'll have to tell you more about that.
And where'd you get that?
eBay.
Oh,
eBay. That's where we get all kinds of stuff.
I remember going to I think they called it the Boneyard at Universal Studios, where they have all these like giant props from, like PT boats from the Navy and just all kinds of stuff that they need for all of their movies. And it's just this really, it's like, it basically would be a junkyard,
Wow.
But it's all this stuff that they use.
Sure. Well, you should see, the costume people. I remember doing some background work on a few films, and I guess it was Men in Black 3. It was an interesting, they had a lot of extras for I think it was a 60s flashback. So I was dressed as a secretary in the Chrysler Building with the light green eyeshadow. It was pretty interesting. But they did hundreds of people. But to walk into that costume room to get fitted, it is astonishing what the people with the big films have.
Aside from the obvious, what is the difference for an actor between being in a live show and being on a movie set?
Well, the types of acting are very different. When you're on film or television, you have to bring it down to a certain degree because there are close-ups and the sound levels. It doesn't have to be as big. So when you're on stage, you're projecting, and it's a greater distance from you to the audience. Not so much in the smaller black box theaters, but when you're on a bigger stage, you really have to project. And it's just a totally different kind of acting.
So
it is and it isn't. In some ways it's so similar, but in other ways it's really different.
So
How was that for a lawyerly answer? You like that?
I like that. I
cover all the bases.
Objection. So what was the first film you were in?
Interestingly enough, actually, you just reminded me of something funny. It was called The Blue Knight, and I think Peter Green was in it, and I was cast as a judge.
Oh, that is funny.
Yes, and what was funnier was that
Did you screw up the rulings on purpose?
No. I had my black robe, I had my hair up, I had my little glasses. But what was interesting was the guy, I told him that I was a former prosecutor, and I think he Googled me. He some kind of proof of this, the director. So
nycourts.gov.
Right? No. Actually, at the time, I had never Googled myself. This was early on, when it was one of those new things. And the funny thing was, the first time I Googled myself, it was People versus Lamont Powell. I had a case that I had written the criminal appeal on when I was in the DA's office, and it went up to the Court of Appeals. So Kathryn Neville Browne, People v. Lamont Powell, came up, and this proved to the director, right? Yep. Proved it, and that's how I got that first role. Mm-hmm.
That is fascinating.
It was kind of neat. If you Google me now, other things come up. It's all about the theater.
I'll tell you, for those who don't know, this is like a little great inside story. I can't really watch law-related shows with my wife because she likes to watch them. She likes watching medical stuff too. Mm-hmm. But I'll see something and it'll be like blah blah blah, objection sustained. I go, "You are kidding me?"
Nah.
And my wife's like, it's only a show. I'm like, are you kidding? Nobody would rule that way.
Oh, please, on The Good Wife. I love The Good Wife, but it should be so good, right? And the clothing. Oh, we should all have salaries to afford that, right?
So that was what other movies have you been in?
I did a few short horror films, actually.
Oh,
yes.
really?
And
that's very edgy.
Very talented writer director Raphael de Leon Jr. He burnt out the beta machine watching all the Alfred Hitchcock stuff when he was a kid. Writes amazing short films, and they're always getting into festivals. So one called Waffle, the other was Wilted. And in Waffle, I was the creature, and in Wilted, I was the mother of the creature.
Oh, that is hilarious.
It was really, he does wonderful work. And actually, one of them had gotten into South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, which is also a big music event. So unfortunately, I did not get to go to that screening, but I did go down to D.C., and a whole bunch of cousins came, and we all saw the film together. It was lots of fun.
Wow.
Lots of
fun. So being back in D.C., what was that like for you?
Oh, well, I always say I've never loved a city so much while I was so miserable personally and professionally. But I always loved the city. I mean, it was such a great place. Yeah, my cousins lived down there.
For those who may not know, the most famous movie about the law school experience, in fact, the only one I know is probably The Paper Chase. And I know that was a movie, and then I believe John Houseman was the intimidating professor.
That's right.
And I believe there was a Paper Chase television series at some point in which he was also in the TV. But, no one kind of, back then, no one really talked about sort of the pressure, the competition, the endless river of coffee that was ingested and the endless piles of cold pizza and
cold people. How about the attitudes? I mean, you are the person who kept me sane. I have to tell you, really, truly, and thank you for that.
Oh, there was a small group of us, so I might as well shout out to Mike Golub, Mikey G.
That's right, Mike.
Who is
Mike.
was one of the funniest and coolest people at law school. Paul Brand, who is
he was tall, Mike.
Oh yeah,
still tall.
I went to both of his daughters' bat mitzvahs, so shout out to the two girls out there. Paul Brand, in fact, Paul was responsible for getting me the interview that led to my first judicial internship.
Nice.
We were judicial interns at the United States Claims Court in Lafayette Square, so we actually worked right across from the White House.
Wow!
And this is before, when you could actually drive on, Pennsylvania Avenue before before all that stuff. In fact, I was lucky enough as a unpaid government employee to get an invitation to the inaugural for Reagan's second term.
Wow.
It got canceled because of the cold, but they use federal employees as a lot of the buffer and the filler for all this stuff.
Funny.
And of course, might as well say hello to, since we're on the topic, so I say hi to Tim Schwartz and George Stansfield. George is very cool. George is now like the general counsel of AXA in Paris. So
wow.
So if you can catch us on FM over there,
Here we go.
Say
bonjour.
Oh, bonjour. Bon matin.
Bonne journée, George.
So that was kind of the crew and of course Hunter McGarry.
Right, you can't forget
Hunter and I were very, very close, and we still are to this day. He has a little boy, and so it's all very, very
these
cool.
Young babies. My babies are 6'3" and 6'4".
Well, who do you think is going to protect our babies?
My boys.
There you go.
That's right.
So do you have any television under your belt?
Well, a little background work. That is the area that I'd like to break into, although I will tell you that I did do some Japanese television. It was and I haven't seen it.
I think
actually.
Joe Namath did that too. Like he did shaving stuff for them in the 70s.
No, this was like they did this whole thing about the woman who fooled the world. So apparently, and it was based on a true story. Apparently, there was some woman who pretended to be a victim who had escaped, a survivor from the towers, and then she was very involved with all the politicians, fundraising, and then it turned out that the whole thing was a big lie, that she was in Spain at the time that it happened. So, of course, Japanese TV, they did this whole big thing, and I think I was one of the survivors, and it was interesting because it was all going to be dubbed in Japanese, but we had to sort of say our lines.
Domo arigato.
Right, and I was like, so you were saved by the red bandana man too? So it was an interesting day.
When we were kids, I remember the Godzilla movies where
Mothra,
where the person would talk.
little gap there.
I don't know how to do the visual here, but it'd be so it was you, Godzilla, and then the mouth would still go.
Right.
And it wouldn't match up.
Oh my God, that was funny.
And you saw basically like an iguana stepping on a Matchbox car.
Oh, those were classic films, classic. But yes, so television is definitely on my bucket list.
Does New York give you pretty much the most access to all of the arts in terms of theater, film, television? Because there's so much out here. Because I know like Hollywood has a lot of film, but they don't really have theater as far as I don't know. I just don't get the impression.
Well, I mean, it is bi-coastal. I mean, I probably should be going out to LA a few times a year. That's what I've been told. And so that's on my to-do list. But, I mean, theater, New York is all about theater. It really, really is. And web series, too. Let's not forget those.
Well, so let's talk about that because,
yes, I have a web series. The web, is lots of fun.
The web is actually a really interesting new vehicle because, like Kevin Pollak, for example, has a web-only television show.
Oh, cool.
And what he does is it's like every Sunday at 3:00 he has like a new show, and he's interviewed all kinds of people, and it's kind of as long as he wants. And he's had Jason Alexander on, this one, that one, and
wow.
and he talks to them because these are all actors who just really each other, and they tell all kinds of very interesting inside stories and a lot of inside jokes, and they share a lot of things. And obviously, a guy like that has both his own web and YouTube's presence. But think about what that does for people to give them access. Look, I have a worldwide audience from here in Brookville, New York. By the way, 88.1 FM, tcbradio.com. Richard Solomon and my very special guest is Kathryn Neville Browne, we went to law school together, but now she's a famous actress, so she's on the show today. And it's actually so cool to actually have rubbed elbows with famous people because they'll actually take your call. Tell them I'm in a meeting. No, it's very cool. Like like remember Lucille Ball?
Must be fun.
Oh, the radio show's fun.
Dr. Ruth.
Oh,
I mean, we have loved Dr. Ruth for a long time.
You
met her?
The great twice.
Oh,
I got
so
to meet her.
cool.
I met her.
I would love to meet her.
She always goes to Book Expo America, and I cover Book Expo America for.
Gotta tell me next time.
Oh,
I'm going to tag along.
It's coming. Go to bookexpoamerica.com or bookexpo.com. They're coming to the Javits Center the end of May 2013. They usually have the show in New York. They've had it in the past in, I think it was Los Angeles or Chicago. I remember going to D.C. at least once because that's where I interviewed Tim Russert.
Wow.
But most of the time I've gone to the show at the Javits Center. It's they've varied it. Sometimes they had it midweek. Sometimes they had it towards the weekend. Sometimes they've had it a couple of days. Sometimes they had it 3 days. But they've been playing because the book industry's having its problems.
Sure. Well, big change, right?
Well, you know what?
With the Kindle and everything.
Music, the CD. Look, Tower Records is gone.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Borders is gone.
That the internet is having on so many areas.
Think about this: when we grew up, you would actually go. Like I would go to Corvettes, and I would actually buy vinyl records.
Corvette.
Remember that?
I remember.
Do you remember that? Because they had the cheapest. They had the cheapest records. $2.99, $3.99. I remember buying like War Child and Spitfire.
Oh my God!
Back in the day,
vinyl.
I represent a guy who's a rapper. And what was interesting is I actually whipped out an 8-track tape and I said, "This is the great-grandfather of what you're doing now."
Wow.
And he looked at it and he's like, "What's that?"
Oh my God.
And I'm like, "This is an 8-track tape." But he was so much younger than me. I said, "My uncle had a Lincoln Continental Mark IV, and he had an 8-track player like right in the middle of his dashboard."
That's amazing.
And that technology is like so passé now. So. But yeah, like where do you go? Where could you actually go now to buy music other than online?
I know. Well, down probably the Village or one of those little shops down
Bleecker
there.
Bob's is gone.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's really changed a lot. There was a place in the Bay Terrace Shopping Center where you actually were able to go look at CDs and it's all gone. And
it's amazing the changes just in our lifetime.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's even less. Just a couple of years.
Does the internet help you as an actor, or does it make it hard because it's another, more competition in terms of media, or is it a little bit of both?
I think it's really opened things up for a lot of people. I think the whole indie film thing has just taken off, and also having a media presence. Well, actually, it's really changed the marketing tools for actors because now you really need to be savvy about social media, Facebook, Twitter. I'm forgetting the other one.
Tumblr.
Right, all of those. And, having your own website, people can really, but I think it's really opened things up for film too, because a lot of people can really produce their own stuff. And now you have Indiegogo campaigns, that sort of thing. But I think it's a great way to keep in touch with people too. I know just the artistic community, I think it started out with Facebook, you can certainly lose a lot of time on there too, but it's a great way to keep in touch with people and their projects. And I use Facebook a lot for my acting community.
Well, I have a friend that I used to work with, and he has a son, Sasha, who is a filmmaker, and he's like 14 now. And,
Wow.
And he's actually raising money for his next film, but he actually has been in film festivals, and
That's
we
terrific.
actually filmed.
Terrific.
He made a movie called The Bird of Time, and he came to the station here because I was Uncle Jack, and that was my little acting. That was my little film credit. I'm more of an author than an actor,
Uncle Jack.
and I was Uncle Jack, and I had to decipher. He had some kind of clue, and it was in hieroglyphics. Of course, I was the Egyptologist, the Jewish kid.
The Jewish Egyptologist.
Right.
Uncle Jack.
Uncle Jack. Mermelstein.
Mermelstein.
Or something like that. And it was really funny is that I actually threw a Yiddish line into the script.
Couldn't resist.
And we actually had him in the studio talking about it. And when he put together the box set for his movie, the radio show, relating to his movie actually made the.
Oh, I love it.
So he's going to be. He's going to be.
Great.
He went to Los Angeles, I think, last summer. He is going to be in the future. He's going to be an incredible, successful filmmaker, and he was like debuted here. In fact, one of his interviews I think is actually on YouTube that we did.
That's true.
So he's a great kid. So Sasha, how you doing? So,
hi, Sasha.
And I think just to give him a plug, I believe his website is sashaworks.com, WRX or something like that. A great young entrepreneur, and definitely someone who's harnessing the internet. What's sort of interesting is
the younger kids really know how to work it. Boy, do they ever.
Well, what's interesting is they kind of only grew up with the internet and cell phones, whereas like if I wanted to study at law school and say, hey, what are you doing for contracts? It's like you'd call on a hard phone. And then you just show up. Like there was no call waiting. There was no texting. Hey, I'm running late. Metro's down or anything like that.
Let me tell you, research, it's a whole new world now. I mean, when I was writing, we were books off of the shelves. Now it's Westlaw, and it's a whole new world out there.
But is it better? I always thought that the manual way you kind of learned a little bit more, and you'd have all the books spread out, whereas now you just kind of get whatever the computer databases tell you.
Well, it was pretty daunting, but I'm kind of liking Westlaw next. Now that I'm getting the hang of it, it's pretty cool stuff.
That's why I have friends who do that for me.
Friends who do that. There you go.
I have great appeal people. I have
that's terrific.
There's a guy that I know upstate. His name is Jack Collins, and he does all the appellate work I need.
That's
and he is probably the greatest appellate guy you could ever meet. So, hey, Jack, how you doing?
That's a gift right there.
Yeah.
Special talent.
He's very, very cool. And the firm he's with is just a stellar firm. They're just a great firm. I've known them a long time. There's about 70 lawyers, and they're great, great people. And they've got some great specialists, and I have a very nice relationship with their firm. They're good people. So anyway, but we've blazed through 47 minutes of just yakking. So
a lot to catch up on, Richard.
What do you want to kind of highlight for the people who are following you as fans about future projects, future endeavors, things that they need to know about, maybe future producers or filmmakers or directors and what can we bring to the table for all those folks?
Well, definitely come and see this show. This show is so much fun, and it's just really, I think, a little something for everyone to identify with. And it's funny, too. I mean, it's just very funny.
Will I laugh my spleen out?
I hope so.
Good.
I'm putting you in the back, so you can get everyone sitting in front of you to laugh along with you. So we always have to have one friend who was an awesome laugh. One of my directors, David Rosar Stearns. David, hello, David. We need you back there. So that's always fun. But there's lots to laugh at in this play.
Because we're skipping around because I'm
Have
unscripted. That's what happens in your because we really can't afford production. Tell me about the web series that you're in.
The web series is fun, I have to say. The web series I was cast in, I think it was November of 2008, and that was when people would say, you'd say, I'm in a web series, and they'd say, web what? I mean, really,
You're a duck?
nobody knew. Whoa. Well, which way did he go? Nobody knew what a web series was, and it's called Empire, Empire the series, and it's about Cubby and Sandra Haven, who own a tabloid, and they have 3 sons and all kinds of trouble.
Now, is this still ongoing?
It is ongoing. We shot season 4 last year in the Hamptons, so we really And some really talented people have joined the cast over the years. And it's interesting, too, because, there was so much, we had so many soap operas here, and unfortunately a lot of them have folded. But happily, many of them are coming back.
I noticed that because I have to admit it, when I was a kid, I watched The Guiding Light.
Oh,
I was a big guy. My brother got sucked into it too.
Tina Sloan is in the web series.
Is that right?
Lillian Raines, Nurse Lillian Raines.
Oh wow!
Yes,
wow.
Tina Sloan and Orla Cassidy. A couple of people from Guiding Light came.
Wow.
Up. Tina's actually my competition. She's moving in on my husband.
Oh.
I was going to say a bad word, but we can't. We're on radio.
We're
we're
FCC compliant here.
That's right. So yes,
that's the few times we'll have Chris edit something.
Right.
Like to take. We once had. We were doing. I had some rock band on. And I remember someone said something a little spicy, and like, ooh, yeah, we gotta
edit that
gotta go to the.
Well, Tina was on Guiding Light for years and years and years, and then she came over as she's married to my husband's brother, but now he's dead, so now she's moving in on my husband.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It's really interesting.
So it's really interesting in real life. My grandmother was a very big General Hospital fan. I used to make fun of her all the time.
I was a Channel 7 chick myself.
So when I started dating my wife, I started watching General Hospital.
Oh.
So I could actually tell you that I've been watching General Hospital for
Luke and Laura.
Probably 11 years now.
Wow.
And so when they had the 50th anniversary, I kind of knew all the stuff.
Oh my! I never would have pegged you for that.
Oh yeah, great story. I was in a Target in Florida, and I was reading a copy of ABC soaps at the stand while everybody else was shopping, and some old lady came up to me, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it was an elderly woman. She came up to me and she tried to take it out of my hand, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she goes, You don't read that." I go, "Elizabeth is having Jason's baby, and he doesn't know it."
I bet that stopped her right in her tracks.
She was stunned.
That's hilarious.
And my wife, I think, just cracked when I told her the story. She and her grandmother, they all just cracked up.
That's funny.
So that is like one of the legendary stories of Rich Solomon in Target in Florida.
I love it.
So I've been watching, General Hospital. It's a guilty pleasure.
Oh, it's fun. Well, we're going to have to turn you on to Empire because it's been lots of fun. I mean, we actually, it's been interesting to watch web series grow too. I think the first year, maybe there were like 10 or 12 or something, and now there's just so much. And they even have the Indie Soap Awards.
Wow.
Yes, and Sandra my character was nominated for Best Supporting Actress in 2011.
Wow. So if I want to go on to the web, where would I find your web series?
That would be at www.empiretheseries.com.
Oh, so painfully obvious.
Empire this. No, but there's like Boardwalk Empire and Empire this and that. So ours is, 3 words smushed together, like you said, empiretheseries.com. And
so how did that start? How has it blossomed? And what surprised you about being a web phenomenon?
I think I know season 2 was very big for Sandra, and I was really amazed at the people who were following her. They were really into it. I mean, and just following her evil hijinks. She's so different from who I am.
So where did they shoot this?
Well, I remember, last year we shot it in the Hamptons, and then we had shot in some beautiful restaurants in Manhattan, and then a lot of it was in Williamsburg and Brooklyn. I think Cubby and Sandra Haven's library was in an apartment, and there were actually all those legal books. I think somebody picked those up from eBay too. To kind of.
Well, I can give you some that are about 30 years old.
You could. But there was she had revenge children and locked people in.
She had revenge children.
Children, yes.
And how does one go about doing that?
That's when your husband has an affair with the maid, so you sleep with his brother, and have revenge children.
Didn't a famous politician from California have that problem?
Maybe that served as the inspiration. I don't know. We'll have to check with my writers.
So does being on the web give you a freedom that you don't have in some of the other media? Because you pretty much do almost anything. You're not necessarily censored. You're not rated by a rating board.
Probably for the writers. I would say for the writers, they do have a lot more freedom to kind of do what they want.
How long is each episode?
Well, they started out shorter, but now they're They're probably anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes now.
See, I just got as a gift a Samsung tablet. So I think what I'm going to have to do is load the entire series on the tablet and then just take it with me to the beach this summer.
Well, you definitely want to watch it in order. Definitely watch it.
Well, yeah, I can't imagine anybody not wanting to, you know.
But it's interesting too. We've seen it grow. The cast has grown. The production quality has gotten so great over the years. Even our directors. I mean, one of our directors, Fritz Breckeller, he's from All My Children. So yeah, we've got some really interesting people on board now.
So how does this get funded? Because
I have no idea. I'm not a producer, but I know they've done campaigns and stuff like that. I truly don't know how they fund it.
Because, you know, like say this radio show, for example, we're just all volunteers here,
right.
And then we're on public radio. So this is just, you know, you're here out of the goodness of your heart, and you know, I donate my time. Yeah. But you know, you really wonder how, you know, I mean, in you know, with the web series you have crew, locations, lighting, you know, all kinds of stuff. Whereas here, I just show up with a USB key.
I'm in awe of it, Richard. I mean, I look at and I'm pretty good with details. And some people have said I might be a good producer, but I don't know how people pull it all together. There is so much work. There's so much work behind the scenes when you're doing, I mean, theater, yes, but when you get into film and web series, oh my God, it's just amazing.
Do you have in you a future book, or a future or anything that you're going to produce yourself?
I have been writing stand-up material.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I have been, and there's loads of topics. And actually someone has said to me that I should turn it into a one-woman show. And I have a friend who's done a very terrific one-woman show. They call me Q, Karat Kadwani, very talented actress from the Mahabharata play. So and another friend of mine, Gary Bialy, who's done a great one-man show. So I may have to take a page from their book and see what I can do.
Well, I can tell you, as someone who's, you know, published a book and all that, you know, and published a CD.
That's great.
You know, there is a tremendous feeling of satisfaction in the creative process. So I invite you to do that too, because you have so much creativity within you. So it's just a natural extension of what you do. And, you know, it's something that, you know, your sons will be like, wow, my mother rocks.
And you know, well, anything that will make them think that is good in my book. Actually, you just reminded me, I have a short one act that I wrote. I think it's on my upstairs computer. It's about two people in a bar and they're talking to each other, but then there's also there are two other characters, and it's what he's actually thinking and what she's actually thinking. So you have these two conversations going on at the same time based on some real life experience. Right? We need to resurrect that, I think.
We all have to draw upon something, you know, to create what we create.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all cool. This was the fastest 58 minutes of radio I've done in a long, long time. So before we just use up the last few seconds, is there anything that you'd like to plug, cite, recommend, talk about before we sign off, or to give a shout out to anybody?
Well, I just want to thank you, Richard, for having me on today, and come and see Some Girls. It's a wonderful cast, terrific director, Greg Caccino, who's done a great job, and in a beautiful new theater, and you'll have a great night.
Wow, that's great. And of course, the ongoing web soap opera.
Yes.
So this is
the Series.
EmpireTheSeries.com.
That's right.
All right. And we're in season 4 already?
Season 4 is complete. So now we're waiting to, well, actually
we have time. We have 2 minutes.
Sandra is really in trouble this time. That's my character. She's always managed to get out of trouble, but this time they kind of boxed her in. So we're dying to see what happens to her now. Oh, and she's pregnant too. Did I mention that? 9 months pregnant. The miracle of hormones and medical science. Yes, she has 30-year-old sons. But anyway, we'll see what happens to Sandra.
I saw the picture.
Oh, you saw that one, right?
Yeah, that was great.
Yes, they made me 9 months pregnant last spring with a outie belly button. It was interesting.
Before you go, where do you see the web series going? Is it just catching on fire?
Well, a lot of people love it. I mean, of course, the goal is to have it picked up and go on a cable channel. That would be the goal.
Oh, that'd be cool. So for all those cable operators out there.
That's right.
All right, and with that, we have to end it because we are out of time.
Thank you.
This is Richard Solomon. For all of those out there listening, thank you for being part of my radio family as always, and thank you for sharing some of my wacky stories from my past this week. So thank you if you hung in there for the full hour. Thank you for your patience. You got to learn a little bit of the Geschichte, as they say. The
New Yiddish. I love it.
The Geschichte. So anyway, I'll see you in a week. Thank you for listening, and keep it here locked on WCWP 80.1 FM. Thanks for listening.